So I'm guessing I'm live. And I see there is a Danny on here already. Hello, Danny. How are you today? Or this evening. It's evening where I am. It is 8:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as I'm just doing a What the Hell Impromptu live, jumping in. And there's Rare Manga. Rare Manga. An impromptu live, just jumping in on the channel just for the hell of it. And see if anybody is out there. Say hello. And Rare says, do Power Rangers. I don't have any Power Rangers anymore. I used to have the whole first American wave. Once upon a time, it's part of the collection that was stolen. And it was from the very first set that turned up in the US when the show first went on the air. And you couldn't find them anywhere at first. And then suddenly they all turned up at CVS, of all places. CVS had them, and it was right around Christmas time. But yeah, I got the whole first wave then. And Renard is here. Thanks for joining us this evening. And held on to it for a long time, but it was part of the collection that was stolen years ago by my ex. And I got off of, I talked about it. I did a full video on it some time ago, because it put me off of collecting for a really, really long time. And then I got back into it and slowly built back up to where we are now, my wife and I, who is not here this evening. Usually when I do a live stream, she's with me, but she is not here this evening because she is out of town for work. So it's just me and my nostalgia channel, open by chance, that we share. But yeah, mostly vintage I'm into, and as is she, although she does have a lot of modern stuff, mostly like Super 7 and NECA. She has a lot of Super 7 and NECA, and she has a lot of Funko, though. She doesn't have any of the Funko displayed. She has some Super 7 stuff displayed back there. And there's Blue Splash. Yeah, he says, you're live during the week. Yes, I am. And Alpha Tryon is here. Had a long day. Had a long day yesterday. Yesterday got really, really pissed off. And Uncarded says, look at the Godzillas. Yes, all three versions of the American releases of Godzilla by Mattel for the Shogun Warriors line, is because all three of them are different. They're very similar, but they do have differences. I had done, you see, I get three different Mazingers, and all three of them are different. Those are all three of the American versions. And some time ago, I did a showcase on the three of them, explaining all the variations, because there are these three, and then there's the French Canadian one, there's the original Popey, there's two original Popies, and so on. And I might do these Godzillas sometime in the next couple of weeks, as showing the differences between the three American versions. And I see Mickle Stapler is here, as well as Mick C, joining us this evening. Caught up with the live stream, saw that there was one. And Thor is here. He says, hi, David and LPH. LPH is not here. LPH is not here. She is out of town for the next couple of days. And I had a spare minute, so I said, what the hell, why not? Let me jump on and just see if anybody's out there. Because usually I set it up earlier, but obviously this was not set up earlier. But yeah, Shogun Warriors, one of my favorite lines, especially the Jumbo Machiners, Jumbo Machinders. But I do like having the variants, because Mattel made very drastic differences each year, basically taking more and more away from the figure to cut costs. as I explained when I did the Mazinger 1, 2, 3 here. That's the first one. This is the third one from Mattel. When I went into detail, you can see that each year there was less and less and less. Oh, and Custom God is here. Live surprise, yes. Renard says, did you pick up any classic TV box sets recently? No, nothing recently. Johnny Future is here. And Mick says that his wife collects Trapper Keepers. I have a couple of Trapper Keepers in the bookshelf around the corner right here. I see Gilgamesh is here. And Mick has the third version. So that's the one that has the sticker on his chest. This is the third release because they just completely did away with this insert that's on his chest. And of course, all of them are inferior to the original model that was produced by Popey in Japan that Mattel was copying from. All the jumbo Machinders and even the small ones are inferior in construction, which is a common thing. You see that also with Hasbro with the Transformers, because the original Transformers, and my wife has some original Takara 1974 Transformers, we'll call them G0, and they're die cast. They have actual spring-loaded shooting mechanisms. It's crazy. And Johnny wants to know how long we're on for. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll see how I feel. And Rare says, I think I saw a new Mazinger figure being released. Yes, that's being done by Bandai, and it is a copy of the first version. It is a copy of the first version, but I think they're doing the full Poppy look to it. So it should have 4 fists instead of 2, because the Poppy had 4. You know that rocket firing? He has 1 rocket firing hand and 1 normal fist. He came with 2 fists and 2 rocket firing hands in the Poppy version. And so yeah, it's Bandai, and you should be able to find it on pre-order on like Big Bad Toy Store or Entertainment Earth. And Blue Splash wanted to know if Shogun Warriors had a show. Yes. They, at the same time that these were being sold in the U.S., on UHF stations as an after-school special, they had a program called Force 5. And every day of the week, Monday through Friday, they would show a different character. They would have a different Jumbo Machinder basically show, like Guy King and all of that. And then on Friday, though, they had the Space Gateers, but they never marketed the Space Gateers in the United States. And the Space Gateers used to piss me off because I even as a kid, I was like, that princess is manipulating those guys. Yeah. And Johnny said, oh, he's talking to Mickey there. And Robert is here. He says, wow, a Tuesday. Where's LPH? Love the live streams. Are you still mad about the YouTube thing? Yes. I am still mad. Pastor Rick has joined us. Glad you could make it. LPH is not here. She's out of town for work. She's out of town for work, and she's going to be gone for a couple of days. Johnny said he went to a used bookstore, picked up 5 highlights for children magazines from 79 and 82, first Raggedy Ann book, first Andy book, and some vintage Dr. Seuss. Nice. Yeah, we got a ton of the highlights. And the highlights, they started making the highlights magazines in the 40s, actually. So they go way back. But yeah, that was a staple back in our day when you, highlights magazines, if you went to the dentist or the doctor's office or something like that, they had highlights magazines. Do I have any handy? I think I might have a couple like where I can grab them just to show people. Hang on a second. Yeah, I do. See, like this. Who remembers that? And this is a 70s edition. This is May 1973. May 1973. And inside it was, you know, stories and puzzles and little like comic strips like this for the young reader just to keep them occupied. And this is the one I used to like, is the Goofus and the Gallant, where he says, like here, Goofus and Gallant, and it show you the difference between the bad kid and the good kid, how they should behave. Like this kid is finished eating and he says, "I'm done." And then this one says, "Mother, may I be excused, please?" to show you the right way to act. And it says, Goofus reaches across the table for the cream. Gallant passes the cream pitcher around. And then here, he's pounded on the table saying, "Butter, butter, butter." And then Gallant says, "Will you please pass the butter?" I used to love that stuff. My wife, they still make these, by the way. Highlights is still in business, and they still make this magazine. Seriously, in case anybody was interested, you could look that up. But yeah, I remember I used to read these in like doctors and dentist offices as a kid. They always had these out for children, and it's something that most of us remember as adults. So yeah, my wife and I found a ton of them. Most of them, they don't cost that much. You can buy them in big lots on eBay for cheap. And Robert says Force 5 and Transer Z the same thing. I'm not sure. And Mick said Highlights was great. And also Dynamite and Bananas were cool, Scholastic magazines and so on. And there's David from Nostalgic. Glad you could make it. And Johnny said, by the way, the Highlights magazines, all of the ones they had were in hardback. Have you ever known them to print them in hardback? I will send photos later. I think they made anthologies. Is yours multiple months put together inside of a binder? Because I think they did anthologies also that you could order direct from the company. So that might be what you got there. And he said he bought 6 for $3 each. They're all hardback. Okay. Oh, Mick, you got a Kenner 1979 Alien, the big chap. That's classic. And Pastor Rick made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Rick. For the cats, obviously, for anybody who's new in here. We take care of a lot of stray cats and abandoned cats and wounded cats that we shelter. And we got a bunch. We take good care of them. So thank you very much, Pastor Rick. That helps a lot. Every bit helps. And Mick says he's missing the dome, the clear dome that goes over the top of his head. That's pretty common, unfortunately. Oh, and I'll show you my Trapper Keepers, because I think they're like right here. I got 2. I don't know if you can still see me. I got 2, and I found both of them in 2 different Goodwills, actually. I got the Purple Tiger with the boombox. And this is another classic from our era. When you were kids, I never had a Trapper Keeper when I was a kid. Nope. I never had one, but I got it now. And then the classic Grid. This one, I think, still has all the folders in it. That other one was stripped down. Yeah, this one still has all of the paper and the folders and everything in there. But yeah, I got these both in Goodwill for like less than $1 a piece. Or 2 different Goodwills. And I always keep an eye out if ever we're in a Goodwill, because this is something that they'll overlook. Because you know Goodwill charge a fortune for everything now. But oh, Custom God says Leopard, yeah. And yeah, Nostalgic said Force 5 cartoon, 5 different TV shows. That's right. Vanguard, Ace, Grendizer, Space Cateers, Guy King, and Star Avengers. Was it Star Avengers? But yeah, the Space Cateers, I know they didn't market in the US. They did market them overseas, the Space Cateers. But those toys, the original 70s ones, man, those are expensive. It's not even funny. For those little figures, and they came with the vehicles, but you know, all Japanese imports are insanely expensive. And Mick said, did your mom forbid the Trapper Keeper? No, she wasn't going to buy me anything. That's a long story. But yeah, It's just one of those things that I didn't have when I was a kid, but I got it now. And Custom God used to have a marble trapper keeper. And Johnny said the highlights were single issues in a hardback. Interesting. That is interesting. Robert likes the Buck Rogers Battlestar Galactica soundtrack, he says there. But yeah, anyways, it had been brought up a little bit earlier here, my little fiasco with YouTube on a video that's been up for years, by the way, suddenly made for kids. Suddenly made for kids. And so they're going to kick me in the teeth. And it's like the third time they've done that over the last year or so. And the last time they did it to two at the same time, and they accepted the appeal on one and not the other. And again, they respond like immediately. They tell you, if you want to appeal and you type your appeal that, hey, this is a nostalgia channel. There's no kids in here. The kids don't watch this stuff. They don't care about all this. It's all adults that are reminiscing for the most part. And we just, we share it. We share it. And they, I get an email like a minute later, literally, after a careful re-review. Nobody re-reviewed a damn thing, YouTube. You're full of shit. The thing is that they've gotten to be the 800-pound gorilla. Now, once upon a time, that was an expression that was used in business to describe a business that has gotten so big that they know you can't move them. So they're the 800-pound gorilla. I dare you to complain. Walmart is like that. Walmart is so big, they don't give a damn. They don't care about anything. And you can complain all you want. Everybody hates Walmart, but they all shop there, and Walmart knows it. You're going to keep going whether you hate them or not because they're just convenient, or you have no choice because there's nothing else around. And they know it, so they don't care what you think. Amazon is like that, and YouTube is like that. YouTube is so big, they don't care what you think. You want to go somewhere else? Try your luck. There's nothing out there. Rumble? Who's on Rumble? There's nobody at Rumble. Rumble's a graveyard. And they know it. And then whenever somebody does get close, there was a couple of times where our company was getting close. And Google bought them and shut them down. It's incredible. So you're arguing with AI bots. They don't understand anything. They don't know what I'm doing here. They don't care. They sink their teeth into you like a rabid dog, and that's it. And that's what they did. And it's like, damn it, give me a break. Leave me alone. It's just, there's no 5-year-olds watching this. Zom said Japanese did it right back then and continue to do so today. With the animation? Oh, absolutely. Mick wanted to know if I ever purchased anything from a toy seller called Mark Huckabone. I don't believe so. And Blue Splash says that YouTube must think I'm bozo. Yeah, right. If I was sitting here, and somebody had mentioned in the comment section, they said if I was sitting here basically drunk, sitting here with a beer in hand, cussing like a sailor, they wouldn't have a problem with me. Unfortunately, that's true. Unfortunately, that's the truth. Because the irony of it is how backwards what's so backwards about it is they say, and it's in the email, this is to protect the YouTube community, and they sanction it, and they mark it made for kids by YouTube. Okay, when they do that, the video being sanctioned can't be found, so you can't search for it anymore in a regular search on YouTube. It's no longer really available unless you search through that individual channel's history. Then you can find it. But if you search through YouTube, you're probably not going to find it anymore because it's been sanctioned. So here's the rub. This is what confuses me about it. Okay, someone explain this to me. Your AI identified a video that you think is suitable for children, marked it for kids, and blocked it so the kids can't find it, but then they can go watch any other garbage that's on YouTube, right? They can go watch Sexy Red say the N-word 500 times in a video and have her ass falling out of her shorts. And that's okay for my little 5-year-old kid to watch. But if you have like old clips of Sesame Street, no, oh no, sanctioned. They can't find it now. And that's keeping them safe? Did I miss something? Someone explain that to me. Johnny said, what was the one video YouTube took 2 years before they replied? Oh man, I don't even remember. Yeah, there was one that that was before they were using AI. There was a video that they had demonetized. They blocked it, and I did the appeal, and it was like 2 years later I got a reply. I had forgotten about it. Robert says he thinks it was the cartoon. No, it was One a Day Plus Vitamins from like the 50s. Seriously. And then Zom says, well said, Big Brother mentality, exactly. And Nostalgia says AI stands for artificial ignorance. Johnny said Facebook is the same way too big to care about you, and they've reported obvious posts of offensive content or threads. Facebook responded, it's okay, and the post will stay up. And actually, currently, Alphabet is under investigation because of all of that. We'll see where it goes. Alphabet, of course, is the parent company of Google, which owns YouTube. So Alphabet is under investigation. They're supposed to appear before Congress. And this is because, obviously, already Twitter, before it was X, when Musk bought it, found out that 30% of the accounts, I think more than 30% of the accounts were fake, and that they were deliberately manipulating data. And now, at the beginning of the year, Zuckerberg admitted Meta's been doing the same thing, said that the government had been intimidating them into doing it. And now, because of that, they've targeted Alphabet. We've heard a lot of complaints. You're doing this to YouTube viewers. We want you to account for that. So we'll see where it goes. We'll see where that goes. And there's Max joining us today. Glad you could make it. Alpha Tryon says, does having a message at the beginning saying the video is not meant for children help? I've heard it doesn't make a difference. I've heard it doesn't make a difference. And Blue Splash said AI is getting out of hand. It's been out of hand. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And to give an example to the layman, as it were, you all have a cell phone, right? If your automatic thing is on for your text messaging, it screws up every time, doesn't it? When it tries to predict what you're going to type and puts a word in for you, and they do it on Facebook too. They do it in a lot of places where it tries to predict what you're going to type, and it throws a word up, and then you got to remove the word because you're like, damn it, I know what I'm trying to say, knock it off. That cell phones have been doing that for 20 years. They still can't get it right, but I'm going to trust AI. Yeah. And Johnny says Alphabet, never heard of that name. Yeah, look it up. Alphabet owns Google, owns YouTube, and so on. And Mick rather says horrible band Kiss shows their butts and YouTube does nothing about it, and Kiss sucks. Oh no. Gilgamesh said no one watches the videos or posts they block or take down. They just have a list of trigger words, and that's all they care about. Pretty much. Incredible. But that's what they do. That's what they do. They just let the bots run it. And if it screws something up, who cares? And I talked about that also in the video that I put up yesterday, that last year the account was suspended for like 4 months. They demonetized the entire platform and wouldn't tell me why. And the email, I had a bunch of comments with them that said, a bunch of emails from them, and it said, I'm asking them, hey, what the hell is the problem? Help me understand so I can work this out. And they said that their policy dictates that they don't have to tell me anything, and that I have to just read the policy and make corrections, and that they have that policy in place so people can't get around the policy guidelines. And I'm like, trying to figure out what the problem is getting around policy guidelines, seriously. And then again, like I said in yesterday's video, some nearly 4 months later, I finally get a hold of an actual person, and they couldn't figure it out. They're like, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. I'll just turn it back on. I was like, oh, gee, thanks. I guess I shouldn't complain too much. And Ghost Junk joined us, said, sorry to hear about YouTube giving you a hard time. It happens. It happens. Johnny Future, he says, that word prediction that predicts your words, there is an option you can turn it off. Yeah, but I mean, I was just making the point that it doesn't work. It doesn't actually work. The predictions it makes don't make any sense a lot of the time. And they've had 20 years to develop that, and it still doesn't do right. And Judge Dreads is here. He said he got a warning from YouTube. And Blue Splash said, who owns YouTube? Google owns YouTube, and a parent company called Alphabet owns Google. And that's the hierarchy to YouTube. And Austin has joined us. Glad you could make it today. And Mick said he put up vintage Kiss toys on YouTube, and YouTube took the videos down. Really? Because, yeah, those modern kids, when they're not brainwashed by their cell phone all day doing this, they're just dying for some Mego Kiss vintage figures. They're dying for it. Saturday Morning Fan is here. He said Simpsons did a joke making fun of cell phone spell check decades ago. Yeah, because it didn't work then, and it still doesn't. Alpha Tryon says, due to these YouTube issues, do you think it's wise for anyone to have YouTube as a full-time job? I don't know, because those huge channels never seem to have a problem now, do they? When's the last time anybody heard of Mr. Beast having issues with YouTube? So, I mean, if your channel's big enough, I guess you just get a pass because they get more ad revenue from you. Because, they take a chunk of that. If there's any ads playing on the video, they take a chunk of that. So, I mean, if you're the little guy, I mean, what the hell do they care? You're one of a million so-called content creators. Who gives a crap about you? But if you're one of the big boys and you're making like $10,000 a month in ad revenue, they probably let you alone. And that's how you end up with shows like Young Turks, where, somebody needs to wash their mouths out with a bar of soap. And Pastor Rick said their so-called policy guidelines are a bit open-ended, and I can't stand, which I can't stand. It is very open-ended, so you never know exactly what's wrong. And like I said, they don't have to tell you. They don't have to tell you. Oh my God. And Judge Dreads said they don't tell you what guideline you broke. No, they don't have to tell you. They don't have to tell you. It's in their policy that they just leave you in the dark. And yeah, catching certain buzzwords is a huge problem. It's a huge problem also. I know we got off the toy subject altogether, but at one point I used the S word in a video. Like when you're going to exterminate yourself, S word, the one. And don't you know, I got put on a safety watch by YouTube. They sent me emails telling me that I was on a safety watch to make sure I didn't hurt myself. You can't make this stuff up. They gave me I might actually still have a few of them. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, here, I do have it. Hold on. I do have it. Hold on a second. I'll see if I can share this. Blue Splash says, couple more weeks to Atlanta. Yes. And let me see. Mick says 15-year-old kids don't care about Kenner $6 Million Man or Mego Planet of the Apes or Aurora or Gen X toys unless it's horror related like Remco Monsters. Let me show this real quick so you don't think I'm just making stuff up. I'll share screen. There it is. There's one of them. Oh, and there's Toy Chic. Toy Chic just in time to see my my safety concern from YouTube. It says, "Hi there. We're reaching out to you because members of the YouTube community, including fellow creators, viewers, or staff," how's that for a general letter, "have expressed concern for your safety or well-being after coming across content you posted with topics related to," I can't say it. I can't say the word because they'll do it again. They put me on a safety watch. And that form letter that they gave me there, if I was thinking about anything like that, I swear it pushed me over the edge. What content creators, viewers, and or staff are concerned. Who's concerned? Who? It's just a form letter generated by AI. Oh, saints be praised. I got a farm letter from AI, and now I don't have to hang myself. Oh no. All right. Well, that's enough of that. I shouldn't say too much. So I shouldn't say too much because they might take me seriously here. And that was my who's it? Chief O'Hara. Me Chief O'Hara from the 66 Batman. Oh, saints be praised. What would we do without the dynamic duo? Gilgamesh says, I've had several of my posts taken down because I said something about deleting, and I wasn't meaning anyone, just saying I've been there myself. YouTube removes that no matter what. And Blue Splash says, hopefully some opportunities at Toylanta. Are you going to Toylanta? Are you going there? Tommy Fletcher is here. And Saturday Morning said, yet DC Comics has a big movie series with Harley Quinn with that word all over YouTube videos. But yeah, I never saw anything with Harley Quinn in it because I can't stand the character. The only one I ever could tolerate as far as Harley Quinn was the original version that was in the Batman animated series. All the other incarnations, I can't stand her. I don't like what they've done with her. I don't like the modern. I don't like that now she's like ultra super ninja. That's practically a match for like freaking Superman at this point. It doesn't make any sense. They've done way too much with that character. Oh, the Blue Splash is not going to Toylanta. Yeah, we will be going, and we will have press passes. My wife and I. I'm not sure if we're going to be there all 3 days or not. It depends on whether or not Toylanta wants us to do anything. When we did the Joelanta, they wanted me to do the announcements for them. So I was there all 3 days so I could do the announcements for their upcoming forums and discussions, which is fine. You know, I don't mind helping them out. But yeah, Toylanta ought to be interesting. It's a mecca this year. It's going to end up being the biggest show in Georgia at this point. The upcoming Toylanta will be twice the size of the previous Joelanta. If you saw my live stream from the Joelanta or any of the other videos that I did, it's a nice setup. I like the way they did the layout. First of all, it's really good lighting, because the one thing that irks me about a lot of shows, they're dark. They're freaking dark. You can't see. You can't see what you're doing. You got to bring a flashlight to examine stuff. But it's really, really bright there, and the lanes are wide. That's something that Brett wanted. Brett is running the show now. So I hate it when people are like crammed like this at the shows. It's like they're stuffing themselves in an elevator. You could drive a car through those lanes. And I mean, literally, they are wide enough to drive a vehicle through, so that people are not on top of each other. And I really liked that. That was a good idea. But this one, they're opening the wall for the whole center, and it's going to be double the size. So we're getting to the point where it's going to be like the Great Ohio or the Kane County shows now. Toy Chic says maybe once we have robots living in our houses, they'll be able to chat with all these AI bots for us. Yeah, they'll be wired in. It'll be like iRobot. And Judge says, weird thing is guidelines never seem to apply to some channels who throw F-bombs to 3 hours, but I get a warning for typing darn. Indeed. Yeah, and that, again, that's something that was said to me several times in the comments on yesterday's video, that if I was sitting here with a beer, I mean, I've got tea in here. If I was sitting here with a beer and just cussing up a storm and being all vulgar and nasty and making sexual innuendos, they wouldn't care. They wouldn't care. But that's not my personality at all. Hell, I don't even drink. LPH and I, neither of us drink. We don't use foul language. I'll slip and say the S word here and there sometimes, but I don't use foul language as part of my regular speaking. No sexual innuendos, no vulgarity, nothing like that. Nothing like that. So, but if I was, they probably wouldn't care. Saturday Morning said, in happier news, He-Man and She-Ra, Secret of the Sword, is now 40 years old, and in a few months, Follow That Bird will be 40. Wow, Follow That Bird. That's crazy. And Mick says his wife has a David Cassidy collection, the largest in the world. Really? David Cassidy, that's crazy. From the Partridge Family. And Judge wants to know what's the favorite toy in the collection. Ugh, I don't know. It's hard to pick. I mean, look around. The room is full. And there's so many different lines that I like for so many different reasons. So many different, I like the Shogun Warriors. I really like the Remco McDonald's. I like the Hasbro and Humanoids. There's a lot of different lines I like for a lot of different reasons. Probably one of my favorites is going to be the one that got me into toy collecting in the first place. And I still have that exact one. I've talked about it a few times. It's right up here. I can pull it out. And that's my Kung Fu Grip Adventure Team figure. And I've told this story before. Some of you might not know the story of this figure. I've had this one since the early 90s. Late 80s, early 90s. I forget. It might have been 89, 1990, something like that when I bought this. And Mick says, have you heard of the insane new trend of collecting Nike left shoes only? No. How is that? Why? Because the left shoe is always the shoe that's on display in the shoe store and they're stolen? Is that why? And Tommy really likes the Shogun Warriors. Yeah, I love the Shogun Warriors. They're hard. They're expensive. They're expensive, especially, although, honestly, it's cheaper. I know people just want to buy them any condition they can find them. It's better to get them complete because piecing it out is a fortune. Is an absolute fortune. And Blue Splash says, glad none of the modern toy companies didn't get into the McDonald's figures. Huckleberry did a homage set of the Remco McDonald's figures in like 2002 or something like that. Was it 2002? I'm trying to remember. But they did like 4 of them in the box, and they did a couple on the card that were convention exclusives for like SDCC or something. Toy Chic says, can you pick up one from the frame? We're all watching you in right now just behind you. Pick up what? One of the Shogun Warriors? And Saturday Morning says, Tom Hanks started that trend with one left shoe. Did he? Yeah, but this is the first official like collectible toy I ever purchased. because I had one when I was a kid. These are mint in the box unplayed with. I had one when I was a kid for about a day, and I've told that story. Some of you might have heard me tell that story before. And when I saw it, I wanted it back. I was like, that's my figure. Boom, the bulb came on. That's my figure. I remember that, and I wanted it back. I wanted it back. And Robert says he always wanted to get the G.I. Joe Sergeant Rock and Easy Company figures, all the ones that were produced, what was it, the late 90s? And Toy Chic said, pick your favorite. There is no, how's there a favorite? And Blue Splash said, soft goods last forever compared to Hot Toys. I know. He's still fully intact. His rifle, look at this. Just by comparison, here's his original rifle with the original strap. The elastic still works. Come on, Hot Toys. Come on, Hot Toys. And Ghost Junk said, glad you were able to see it again. And Saturday Morning said it was a joke because of the movie Tom Hanks was in, Man with One Red Shoe. I don't remember that movie. I'll pull one out here in a minute, though. I know what you're talking about. But yeah, for some of you heard that story before. I had one of these when I was a kid, this exact figure, Kung Fu Grip Land Adventurer, that someone had given me and my mother didn't approve. And so she, long story short, told me I could have it if it was demilitarized. So she took the sticker, she took the dog tag, she took the rifle, and I was like, okay, whatever, at least I still got the figure. And I took him outside and played with them. I must have been 5 or 6 years old. Took him out and played with them all day and had a good time, and came back, and she was so angry that I still wanted it because I guess I was supposed to take a hint, that she destroyed it. She tore it to pieces right in front of me. And so when I saw this in a toy store on Brighton Avenue in Allston, Massachusetts, in like 1989 or 1990, there was a toy store there, a vintage toy store, and I'd never been in one before. And I went in there and I looked around and I saw this, and the memory came back. I remembered the whole thing, and I was like, oh my God, I had that. And I just bought it. I didn't try to haggle or anything. And so this, this is the figure that started it all. I actually talked about this at the Toylanta because I did one of their panels. Mick said some toy sculpture is ruining Mattel's Shogun Godzilla by painting black and transforming it into a pinhead Hellraiser. And Nostalgic, that David there, he says Hot Toys are for the 6-scale fetish collectors. It's a cult. And Mick said Adventure Team's classic. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But, I can grab one of these. Hold on. This is Dragon. Here's Dragon. And I do have all of his stuff. I'm not going to mess with it too much, though. See, there's his wrist launcher. But these are notoriously fragile right here. It clamps onto his right fist only. I've actually seen it on his left arm at conventions and took it off and put it down and told the dealer, I know I'm not trying to be evil, but yeah, it's only meant to go on the right arm, and that you shouldn't put it on the left arm because that's fragile and it will break. And if you look carefully here, you see the notch on both sides of this arm is a notch that the clamps fit into. See them? That's why it only goes on the right arm. But I often see it on the left arm, and that's a mistake. It'll break. And I'm like, I'm not trying to mess with you here. It goes on this side. Let me show you. And I've never had a problem doing that. Usually people are like, oh, wow, I had no idea. Thanks. Because they don't want to break it. Here's his little throwing stars that load into the launcher. See, that opens up and the stars go inside. And there's a spring-loaded firing mechanism right there that shoots them out. That shoots these out. And then he has these little axes. These. And they go in this hand. And it's spring-loaded. And there's a little, you hear it, a little thumb switch there. And when you pop it, the axe flings out of his hand. Now this Dray gun is version 3. Firstly, because he's got the little thunderbolts. Version 1 has V's, right? But then they changed it to a thunderbolt on the shins. And under the arms, both arms, you see these are smooth. The first version has a little buzzsaw that spins with the teeth facing forward, and they changed it. They flipped them around. In version 2, the teeth face backwards. And then the third version, they removed them completely. They did away with the buzzsaws altogether that were underneath his forearms. Because, like I pointed out earlier, Mattel is cheap. And with each version of the Jumbo Machinders, they took something away. Because that's what they do. And Tommy said Ray Dean's head looks cherry. Yeah, a lot of times those spikes, they get chew marks on them because kids bite them. And Saturday Morning says they're planning to make a Sergeant Rock movie. Oh God, that's awful. And Ghost Junk says that's an awful story. Yeah, it's an awful story, but it is what it is. That sums up my childhood right there. That's why I didn't have a Trapper Keeper. But you know, it is what it is. That's a million years ago. It's a different lifetime. It's part of who I am, but it doesn't define me. Let's put it that way. But yeah, I found it again. And now it's mine, and I still have it. Still have it in the box. And I have others. I've got a bunch up on the wall. But, you know, this is the one that got me going. There's a handful of pieces that have a significance, like the Eagle One there, and I've talked about that before. This was actually a gift from a viewer. Lee from Canada sent this to me. But yeah, I had a story about that when I was a kid too. But there you go. As I try to catch up, because I went way behind on the comments. Saturday Morning said, let's hope Marvel releases a Shogun Warriors trade for the 70s comics this year with the ROM, Micronauts, and Godzilla comic trades they're releasing. That would be interesting. And Robert said, did his arms pop out too? Yes, you can take the arms off. All of them have that feature where the arms detach on the line there, because again, the Popey versions came with 2 sets of fists. So you got four fists with each of the Popies in Japan, but Mattel did away with that, and they gave you one normal fist and one special feature fist. And they eliminated the special feature fist for each figure and just gave them one of each instead of 4. Nostalgic said it's crazy. Hot Toys, Sideshow, Mondo in art collectors will pay incredible prices for figures with quality issues, but defend the companies. It is. And Saturday Morning said it could be worse. Arnold was going to play Sergeant Rock in the unmade 80s movie. Was he? That's interesting. And Uncle Dave's Movie and Toy Channel, do you have any vinyl figures in your collection? I got a ton of them. You can see them right over my shoulder here. You can see some. And mostly, let me turn that. you could see some of them there. I've got a bunch of 70s vinyl figures. There's the Pillsbury family that was sold in Sears through the Pillsbury Company. I've got almost all of the original product people in the boxes except for Frankenberry. That's the last one that I need. I still need Frankenberry. Everybody else I've tracked, it's taken forever to track them down, trying to find them. But yeah, I've got some ideal Hanna-Barbera hand puppets with the vinyl heads. And I also have some Dakin vinyl jointed figures that came in the bags in the 70s. Tommy said he never had 12-inch Joes as a kid, a couple of vehicles from garage sales, but when they came back out with them in the 90s, based on the 3 3/4-inch figures, I bought all of those. Yeah, the Raw era was a very popular line. You can see some of them right there on that display unit that's sitting behind me. The Raw era was very popular. Let me just shift over a little bit. And I have a bunch of those too, and I had those when I was a kid as well. Judge says it's an awesome collection. Thank you. Thank you. Johnny says one of the Seuss books I found today was And to Think I Saw It on Mulberry Street. That was banned. Yeah, he says that. A banned book because it says in the book a Chinese man who eats with sticks. Yeah, and he does. Well, before it said a Chinaman. I think the earliest edition says Chinaman, and they changed it to a Chinese man. They changed the wording, and then they just did away with it completely, and that makes no sense. They still eat with chopsticks. And Ghost Junk said, do you have any comic slabs displayed? I don't have any displayed. I do have some slabbed books, but I don't have any on display down here. And I've been thinking about setting up something where I could. I have some space in the stairwell. There's a blank wall in there where I could be. And Blue Splash says a lot of these big YouTubers kissing Hasbro's butt after Toy Fair, they were able to pose around the Maximum Spider-Man that's $50 and say it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it. I couldn't have got on board with that. But, they're not paying me to talk. That's also why I'll probably never make the big money. Because, if I find something wrong with it, I'm going to say something. And Judge says, do you have any kids and do they appreciate it? Actually, I do have a couple of boys. And one of them is a toy dealer in Illinois. He lives in Illinois, and he owns Nerdtastic Plastic. So if you're ever and I think he does every show in that area, like Illinois, Wisconsin, whatever, in the tri-state, except for the Kane County Toy Fair, because it's so huge. You get lost in the sauce. And he says as a dealer, he don't make much money there. He does better at the smaller shows. But yeah, if you're ever out at any of the shows out there and you see Nerdtastic Plastic, that's my son. So yeah, he's really into this. He's really into all of this. As I move around here, Mick said Remco Sergeant Rock wasn't too bad. The plastic case was reused for Remco Monsters. And Johnny said, yeah, the other version says a Chinese boy. I don't get the changes. They kept altering it to try to be politically correct until it was at a point where, in order to be politically correct, they had to do away with it altogether, which is ridiculous. It's the same reason that the Tintin book, I think it's Tintin in China, was also banned. If any of you remember Tintin and his adventure series, Hergé wrote them. He was French. that there was one Tintin in China, and in one of the things they're talking about foot wrapping. And that book was banned because it talked about foot wrapping. But that was a real thing. The Chinese did it for centuries. There are some women still alive today that were subjected to that as children before the practice was banned in China. So it absolutely is something that, as a world traveler, Tintin would encounter in China in the 40s. And it's like, that's history. And you're saying that you're banning it because of that? And Saturday Morning says, do you have any classic cereal boxes like G.I. Joe cereal, etc.? My wife does. And I know she's got, for sure, the Batman cereal. And I think it's still sealed, actually, the 89 Batman. Excuse me. Nostalgic said many toys in the 80s had a cartoon to sell the figures, and once the TV show ended, so did the sales. Classic G.I. Joe Adventure Team still sold very well and didn't need a cartoon. Sometimes they don't. Fisher-Price Adventure People, one of the most popular lines of the 70s and early 80s, had nothing, no cartoon and no show. Absolutely nothing. And that was a very popular series. The Adventure People. You remember Adventure People? Here's a classic. See? X-Ray Man. These things sold everywhere like hotcakes. Very popular toy line. Very popular toy line. And they had nothing to back them up. Nothing to back them up. Robert says, where am I? Robert said, did you ever visit your son? I don't go back to Illinois, but he has come here a few times. And Judge wants to know what I think of the Mythic Legion's dragon. I think it's too expensive. I think it's too wrapping. I think it's too expensive. Much too expensive. And if I'm not ignoring you, if I grazed over a comment, because there's a lot going on there, and it's trying to catch up. Gilgamesh says, I can't stand the shills pitching for the maximum profit. Spidey 100% sellouts. Honestly, I think it's just another Legends Spider-Man. All they did was add a few extra pieces. I don't see the big deal. I don't see the big deal, honestly. And I talked about it, especially, what is it, $50? $50 for a Legends figure? I don't know, man. I don't know. Saturday Morning said Star Wars. Yeah, Star Wars, Crystar, Animax, Air Raiders almost all had cartoons, but they never got made. Yeah, Crystar had figures. Or no, they had a card. They had a Crystar had a comic. Let me think. Air Raiders. No, I'm thinking of Ring Raiders. Ring Raiders is the one that they blew it with that. Ring Raiders is there's only 5 episodes because it was pilot, and it's actually not a bad cartoon. It's actually kind of interesting, but they made toys, but no action figures, and I'm like, I don't know if that was a good idea. And they were literally rings. It was a ring with a little airplane on it. Who did Matchbox make those? I think it was Matchbox. And they made play sets, all these big elaborate play sets and everything. And I'm like, I think that was the wrong direction for the Ring Raiders. And there's Lynx. Glad you could make it. Ghost Junk. Anyone remember John Candy's cartoon? Yeah, Camp Candy. And he voiced it himself. That's right. And Johnny says he recently bought the hardcover book, Cecily G. and the 9 Monkeys by H.A. Ray, the 1942 first ever mention of Curious George the Monkey. That's cool. And Tommy said Star Wars was cool, as I catch up here. Mick wants to know if I ever collected Spawn figures. I had the whole original wave. but a part of the collection that was stolen. That's not something that would be hard to replace, though, because the value on those bottomed out. When they were first rolling them out, and McFarlane was on the cutting edge of artificial demand in action figures with his accidental paint errors that it was supposed to be orange, but the Chinese factory painted them green by mistake. Sure, Todd. Um, all he did was borrow the concept from what they did with the Spider-Man #1 and take it to the toys. But I had that then when Malbolgia was $150 at the toy shows, and now you could probably get them for 10. It wouldn't be a hard line to replace. But modern stuff, I wouldn't want anything modern. Gilgamesh said Chris Cox also came out and said to expect more Hasbro price hikes. It's going to get to the point vintage will be cheaper or just as expensive. And of course, remember, I did those videos a while ago, LPH and I, showcasing 3 videos, 70s, 80s, and 90s action figures that are cheaper than modern examples. And those actually were pretty popular videos to a lot of people, because they were like, because people, they think action figure collecting, they always think of what I call the big sexy stuff. You look at Masters of the Universe, and you look at G.I. Joe, and you look at Mego superheroes, and you look at Transformers and all of that stuff, and Thundercats, and you're like, oh my God, there's no way I could afford vintage stuff. But that's just the most popular stuff. Star Wars falls into that category, the original Kenner Star Wars. But there's a lot of toy lines, man, they're still inexpensive. They're still really reasonable to purchase. And you could get into that instead. That's why I did those videos. Judge says, do you collect more nostalgia than toys, or is it all relative? I don't know. I guess it's all relative. But mostly what we have is toys. I do have a lot of comics. LPH and I both collect comics. We collect vinyl records, stuff like that. We collect DVDs of, vintage television shows and stuff like that. It's an all-in thing for us, kind of. Link says he found a video history of Bone shocking the creator create the comics during the 80s lasted to now, or shocked. Interesting. And Saturday Morning says an 80s Orko is cheaper than buying a new version of them. It feels that way sometimes. And I think about that kind of stuff, especially when they reissue a toy line. Rarely do they reissue a line and it's cheaper than the original. Like the Street Sharks, the current incarnation of Street Sharks from Mattel is cheaper than the originals because those got very expensive. But sometimes things are reissued and it's like, okay, it would be cheaper for me to buy the original version. Why would I pay this much? Why I want to pay so much for a modern version of Earthworm Jim when I can still get the Playmates Earthworm Jims from the 90s for, around $50 a figure? Why am I going to buy your 12th scale version for like $150 or however much? Okay, it's better articulation. I'd rather have the vintage one. Robert said I also collect cats. Yeah, I think they collect me. They just show up. Judge says, when does collecting become hoarding? I did a video. I think we did a video on that some time ago, LPH and I. When you can't manage it anymore, if you notice, if you watch hoarders, if you've never seen an actual hoarder in real life, if you watch hoarders, they just kind of discard things. They just kind of keep placing things. They throw things. They have stuff, even things that might be valuable. Some of these hoarder shows, they got stuff that has a value. And they just kind of throw stuff They toss it up on top because they don't care anymore. And it's like, you may as well not collect anything then. Everything in here, very neatly maintained. It's clean. It's safe. It's cared for. If we have any overflow, it's packed carefully in a tote and we have a place to store it. If it was piled everywhere and filthy, and I come in and I got more stuff and I just dump it on top of this on the table and it's out of control, then you're hoarding. Then you're hoarding. And that's what you got to watch out for. And Road Pig says, yeah, Street Sharks Origins are looking cool. Yeah, it's a lot better price. Because otherwise you'll spend hundreds on vintage Street Sharks, as opposed to, I think retail on the new wave is like 25 a piece, something like that. And Johnny says, thumbs up, please, everyone. Yeah, sure. Please do if you don't mind. Robert said, Hobo's his favorite. Poor Hobo. Poor Hobo. He's a sweetheart, too. He's a good boy. And that's one of our shelter cats. He's one of the cats that's been with us the longest. And he's not going anywhere. But he was also one of the worst cases we ever had. He's one of the 3 times I've been told by a vet, twice with a cat and once with a dog, just put him down. He's not going to make it. Just let us euthanize him, which I'll never agree to. I won't do it. And all 3 of those animals, full recovery, including chubby, happy Hobo. And we call him Hobo because he doesn't have teeth. Poor guy's got no teeth. That's why he was starving to death. That's why he was so badly malnourished, because he couldn't eat when he turned up. And he was so weak. He was practically feral, but he was so weak he couldn't resist me getting hold of him. But yeah, he's great now. Hell, when we found him, you couldn't even tell he was orange. He was so filthy and so covered with scabs and dried blood and just, poor guy. But yeah, he's a happy, healthy animal now. Link says he found some Jetta toys of cereal characters and M&Ms at Five Below. Yeah, Five Below's been carrying that kind of stuff. Excuse me. Gilgamesh says he'd rather have vintage figures than ones with 100 points of articulation. Articulation ruins a figure's looks. Sometimes, yeah. Well, especially that exposed joint thing. Blue Splash, it's going to be interesting seeing who stops or who continues to collect on the modern toy lines in the community with price hikes. Well, not only that, but they don't end. There's no end. You know, I was thinking about that with the Ura, because that's what G.I. Joe Classifieds is. Essentially, it's a reimagining of a raw era G.I. Joe figures. These. A raw era G.I. Joe, right? It's a reimagining in a different scale. And they have produced more classified figures in 3 years than Hasbro did of the Ura line in 10. When does it stop? When does it stop? And then they can't just release them once. They got to release them twice, because you get them in a box and on the card. Oh my God. Judge says he still has a lot of Spawn. They were some of the first ones that he ever collected. That's neat. That was around the time you saw the film, I imagine, right? The original film. And Saturday morning, have you watched the show Toy Store Near You on Prime? The toy store here was in an episode. Pretty neat. What toy store? The toy store here was on an episode. The show Toy Store Near You? I don't know if I know that show. I don't think I've seen that. Johnny says if you would not recognize if it's missing, it's hoarding. Sometimes. Sometimes it depends. Like if someone came down here and grabbed something small, one of these little like Imperial Godzillas, for example, you know, one of these, stuck this in his coat, maybe I wouldn't notice it for a couple days. You know what I mean? I don't know. But yeah, I know what you're saying. That was happening to that guy who has the largest Star Wars collection for years. People were stealing his stuff and he didn't know. Ah, incredible. Robert says, "Is there anything new you might actually like?" I don't know. I thought I liked Mondo. I thought I did. I'm pretty pissed about it now. Um, Again, something modern that came out that I thought I was interested in, but I'm waiting to see, was that company that's starting to make this Great Space Coasters figures in a reaction style. Great Space Coasters. I thought that was pretty cool because no figures had ever been made for that. They've never done it before. Excuse me. Saturday Morning says also stores like Walmart and Target doesn't get most of the new IP action figures anymore. Love 80s toys, but let's see some new IP action figures also. And Reston is here. He says, "Hello, David and LPH at work right now. I wanted to jump in and say I support you guys 100%. Thank you, Reston." LPH, of course, is not here, though. She is away. She is asleep in a hotel out of town because she had to go out of town for her job. I assume she's asleep by now because it's past our bedtime. Actually, I just don't have to do anything tomorrow. Johnny says, "Is LPH going to order from Big Bad Toy Store ever again?" I don't know. Well, she still has pre-orders up with them currently. She still has a couple of things in her box. So I don't know. I assume so. It was sorted out finally, although it took someone from Big Bad Toy Store who apparently watches our videos to actually get anything done, which is hilarious. It's like I didn't know we were getting around that much that Big Bad Toy Store is watching our videos. Robert says he has a few Mezcos. They seem okay. They can be fragile. They can be pretty fragile. And they're kind of cultish too with some people that got to have all of them. You know what I mean? And Judge says they're coming to the realization after 30 years, my collecting may be done. No more space, too expensive, not really fun because hunting is dead where I live. Now, I don't like hunting. A lot of people say it's all about the hunt, and we tried that for a while. My wife and I did that for a while where we'd go around to different places and we'd look for toys, but we found that we didn't really care for that. We didn't really care for that. I'd much rather do the shows. I like doing the shows better, and it's what I call the target of opportunity shopping because I'm not looking for anything specific. When I go to the toy shows, I'm just keeping an open mind. If I have a list, I'll never find what I'm looking for, or it'll be insanely expensive. I've had more good fortune just going to a show and being like, let me just see what's there. And finding like incredible deals on stuff that maybe I didn't even think of, that I'm like, oh wow, it'd be really cool to have that. Or that goes with this. Or hey, actually I was looking for that. That target of opportunity experience, I think we have a much better time with than trying to toy hunt and run around, and you waste all that gas and all that time and energy and running around all over creation, going to toy stores, hoping that something's going to be there and just getting disappointed over and over and over again. And Gilgamesh said Spawn was actually what got me into collecting. I have almost every single figure from the original 34 wave run. Wow. David says new mask figures by little subjects are going to be pretty right off the bat. Yeah, they look almost identical to the originals. And yeah, it might be a good, I don't know what they're charging for them yet, but it might be a good inexpensive alternative to the originals if you can't afford them. So yeah, we'll see. Robert says they have a few Mezco. Oh, I read that. Okay, I slipped and I'm behind. Gilgamesh says, I was thinking about getting some of the old Babylon 5. I used to love the show. You ever have any of them? No, I did not have Babylon 5 figures, but they are very cheap. They are very inexpensive because it's just kind of been forgotten about. So you can, yeah, you can find them for a pretty good price. I would just watch out for yellow packaging on some of them. But yeah, you can find them for a great price. The old Babylon 5. And they had Babylon 5 figures on an episode, if you remember, because Londo was pissed off because the doll, when he stripped it, it's not anatomically correct. And he thought that they were making fun of him by having it be bald between the legs. I don't know if you remember that episode. He was really angry about them, about the vendors having dolls or action figures of prominent figures from the station. And Gilgamesh says he used to love hunting. That was before eBay and scalpers. Now, if I'm going for something new, I just want to pre-order it online. Even that is a fight with scalpers now, though. True. And Blue Splash said getting Target exclusives offline is a pain in the ass. True. That is true. Target, that's always been a problem. That's always been a problem. And you might remember way, way back, I had, was it a short? I'm trying to remember. I put something up on the channel like 5 years ago or something because somebody from a Target employee was putting a shipper of advertising icon Funkos in their trunk. Toy Chic said the mask figures are basically $30 to $100, different prices as they go up in size. Okay. Yeah, it would be cheaper, obviously, than buying boxed versions of the originals. Gilgamesh says Londo got mad at everything, though. It was great to watch him rant. Yeah, Londo had a short fuse, but because he thought that they were making fun of his genitalia by making it bald between the legs, and he was furious. He was absolutely furious. But yeah, my wife and I, we did that for a little while, the whole toy hunt thing, and we found that we didn't care for it. We found that it was a waste of time running around, waste of gas. We prefer, if it's something modern, we'll look for it online. We'll get it or not, excuse me, get it or not. It's like having a part-time job, for God's sake. And we more so enjoy going to the shows, and especially if it's a lot of vintage stuff. If I go to a show and it's a lot of modern stuff, I don't care. I don't really care for it because everybody's got the same stuff. They all got Funko Pops. They all got Marvel Legends. They all got Star Wars Black Series. Blah, blah, blah. Give me a pillow. I'm going to take a nap. If it's a lot of vintage, I love it. I love seeing that stuff, especially if it's things I'm not familiar with. Even if it's something I'm not interested in, at least I get to see it and I can appreciate it. Judge says, I hate pre-orders. The shipping blows up the price. I never have money when orders drop, and too many issues with the post office. If you have to watch all these channels to even know what's out there, it's more of a job than a hobby. There you go. And Link says, I remember going hunting back in the day around the mid-10s, 2010s. Now just flippers and scalpers making money. They need to get a job. That is their job. You've seen the videos of those guys older than me fighting in the aisles over Pokemon cards. You seen those videos? Or the sets? And it's like, are they even making any money? I was watching one thing. The sets are $50 a piece, and they're selling online for $75. After tax, shipping, and fees, you're not even going to make your money back. What the hell are you doing boxing with some old woman in the aisles in Walmart for that trash? It's incredible. And Road Pig said, the jumbo Shogun Warriors you have look good. There's a new Mazinga. I think it's like 400. Yeah, that's Someone brought that up earlier. Bandai is doing that, and it's supposed to be scale accurate to the Popey version that the Mattel's copied from. And pricing, I'm not sure. I would go to Bandai's website for the best pricing, because they're usually cheaper than pre-ordering it through like Big Bad Toy Store or Entertainment Earth. But they're doing Mazinger, and I rumored they're going to do another one, probably Guy King next. If they do the Guy King, if they do it like the Popey Guy King, it'll be worth taking a look at, because the Mattel Guy King looks nothing like the Popey one. I've talked about it before. They stripped, this is the one, that's the Guy King. They took so much away from it, side by side, you wouldn't even recognize one from the other. You wouldn't know it was, you're like, what the hell did Mattel do? Holy crap. Because you see this one here, and this is a mini jumbo Machinder made by Mattel for the Shogun line, and they called it Zargon, although obviously that is Guy King. But this is what that one looked like with Popey, and they took all that crap off, all the big dragon head, the big three-dimensional dragon head. They did away with it. The giant horns, because it had massive horns, because you could pull his arms out of the sockets and put the horns on the torso and fold the legs under to make it the dragon head. And I think you could fold or maybe I'm thinking of a different set, but you could pull his arms off, and he had a big giant like three-dimensional dragon head like this, with teeth sticking out and everything. And Mattel was like, nah, too expensive. Just give him a flat blow mold torso. There you go. Thanks. So if they're doing it like the Popey, it should come out looking like this instead of that, which would be impressive, especially since the Popey versions are insanely expensive. Link says, my first anime convention, I find rare stuff like animes and manga. Now there's Funko and Marvel, Star Wars, and Hot Wheels. I miss the old conventions. I don't blame you. Gilgamesh says, I've only had one person get an attitude with me in the store when I was figure hunting. Most people I meet are cool and will talk for a couple of minutes. I met a couple of collectors recently like that. That's good. Judge says he wants to just enjoy what I have now and not constantly chase the next shiny object, which is completely understandable. And you should enjoy it. Again, a lot of people say it's the thrill of the hunt. I disagree. Like, for example, I've mentioned it before. Now you can't see it. I've got the complete Remco McDonald's line. I'm happy with it. I don't need to find another one. I've got all of them. I'm happy. It's done. I was happy finishing it, not hunting for them. Or the Chuck Norris. I've got the complete Kenner Chuck Norris line. It's finished. I was happy when I got the last one. That meant everything. Hunting for them, take it or leave it. When I get the last product people, the Frankenberry, I'll be happy. Oh man, will I be relieved when I find it. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. As I try to catch up here. I'm falling way behind here. Stone Sour's here. Says better late than never. That's okay. Made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Stone Sour, indicating it's for the kitties. They appreciate it. So do I. Still taking care of a mountain of them. They come around. I got another stray that's been circling the yard for a couple of weeks, just watching. And I'm wondering when they're going to cross into, I don't know even if it's a male or female, when they're going to try to cross in. And I know that they're around because every time they do, all the ones that are sunning on the porch perch up and watch, and their heads turn. I'm like, who the hell is that? Because sooner or later they'll come and try to eat, so we'll see. Hopefully I can take care of them. Help them out, poor thing. Poor thing. As I jump ahead. Johnny says he doesn't see anything worth buying in Target and Walmart anymore. I don't even walk the toy aisle. Neither do we. We used to. I caught LPH doing that. The last couple of times we had to go to a Walmart, and she was like, "You want to go down there?" I'm like, "Why?" It would only be out of force of habit. There's no point. There's nothing there I'm going to be interested in. Every time I go there, all I see is disappointment. Just disappointment. And Stone Sour made another donation for the cats. Thank you, Stone Sour. I appreciate it. It means a lot. Saturday morning wants to know if I have 80s Gremlins toys. I do not. LJN made those. I would get a set if I could find them in decent boxes, actually. But yeah, those were made by LJN. They did also ET. LJN made ET. And Johnny says, Thrill of the Hunt doesn't pay for gas or the time you wasted. And Gilgamesh says, Walmart has their Collector Con next week. There are 4 things I want. I hate ordering for Walmart. I'm not sure if I should order for them or not. Well, if you don't mind your stuff being delivered in a vinyl bag. I don't know. I've heard horror stories about all of them doing the deliveries. Nostalgic said the Bandai reissues of the Popey Machinders are not one-to-one copies. There are some differences from what I've seen. The vintage shooting gimmicks are more powerful. Really? They look pretty close to me. But yeah, okay. Okay. And Robert says, do you have a 12-inch Mr. T? No. I did. I used to have both of them because there's one that talks and one that does not. And I had a couple of the carded outfits because you could change his clothes. He had like a fireman's outfit and some other stuff. I don't have those anymore. So I try to. Johnny says, remember the 4 figures from the Walmart of Atlas comic figures? The Devilina figure has been delayed. I wonder why. Because that's the one everybody wants. The Devilina more so than anything else. But those were popular. That was a good fit for Mego for trying to do something new and different. Robert wants to know if the cats fight every once in a while. Rarely. They do get along. Every once in a while, somebody gets a bee in their bonnet, as they used to say, and they're just in a mood, and there's a tiff sometimes. And funny enough, if I tell them to stop, they will. It's weird. Because, you shouldn't interfere with a cat fight. You'll get cut to ribbons because they can't differentiate in a fight, friend or foe. But, like, there's especially Hobo sometimes gets annoyed occasionally, like once a month. And he pops up out of a sleep and he looks and he comes up on somebody and he's got that sideways head turn and it looks like he's going to fight. And I'll open the window, Hobo, come back over here. And he will. But yeah, rarely. They all seem to get along. But usually when cats fight, it's because of resources. And they don't need anything. Because I provide everything, fresh water every day, fresh food every day. So there's really nothing to fight about. And what's really nice is to see them at night, all in a heap. They all sleep in a big pile on the porch. Judge said all my old spots were a few blocks away. Walmart, Toys R Us, Target. It was better than watching TV. And Gilgamesh says his Walmart toy aisles have hardly any figures from any toy lines lately. It's like they've given up. Have they? Saturday said, had the Elliot and E.T. on bike figure as a kid. You pushed him back and he rode off. From LJN, right? Johnny had a Devilina on pre-order. I hope Walmart doesn't refund it. Oh, no. And Johnny wants to know, are dogs tunnel visioned when they fight too? They can be. But if they're domesticated, they can be controlled. But they can be. Saturday morning want to know if Megaforce 80s movie had toys with those flying Knight Rider bikes in the movie. If they did, not in the US. It's possible something could have been made in Argentina. I know Argentina did MacGyver stuff. It never made it here, you know. And Stone Sour made another donation to the channel. And he says, Hobo. Everybody loves Hobo. Poor Hobo. Hobo and Dad were the two that were in the worst condition. And a dog once, because I said it was 3 animals that the vet told me just give up and let us euthanize them. It was a dog named Mush that was dying because of a ruptured bladder. And I found somebody willing to do the surgery, and he lived. And that was expensive. That was real expensive. And then, of course, Hobo, who was just diseased so badly. He was emaciated because he couldn't eat, no teeth again. He was starving to death. He was covered with scars and scabs and bloody. He had ear mites. He had fleas. He had a stomach virus. He had intestinal worms. He was just falling apart. He could barely stand. And then Dad, of course, dying because of a tumor. And both of them, they told me, just put a needle in him, basically. And I'm like, nah, I want to give him a chance. Because I just don't believe in it. I don't like that. And it's not like they can just tell you, like the cat's like, I can't take it, just put me down. They seems to me they were looking for help. So let me try and help them. You know, and they lived. They both lived, and they're both living their best lives now. They're both happy. Munin says, good evening. Glad you could make it. Says I'll have to catch the replay. It'll be on. Blue Splash says, do you feed the strays tuna? No. Strays will eat damn near anything. When I had Crumb, one of the earliest ones, he's been long since adopted. He would, because we had to keep him in the house for a while. Really, we domesticated him before we adopted him. He'd eat anything. When we brought him in the house, he was trying to eat out of a bowl of mixed nuts. If we had a sandwich, he would jump up and grab a bite out of it and run. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich, he'd eat it. And, you know, some of them, the more feral they are, the less picky they are. So anything I put out, they'll eat. Hobo, I always make sure Hobo gets something soft. But, you know, excuse me. And Judge wants to know what I think of the DC license switch from Todd to Mattel. I don't know that, is he officially not going to be making DC anymore? Because I hadn't heard that they were shutting him off. I hadn't heard that that they were shutting him off. But you know, it wouldn't surprise me if he kept making them, because how many people are making DC figures still anyways? That's the whole thing in the modern era. When DC figures were made in the 80s, Kenner, that's it. Superpowers. Now everybody makes them. So it wouldn't surprise me if he kept doing it. And Link says, hope the dog and kitty are doing well. Yeah. Dog was long since adopted. And, of course, Hobo and Old Dad, we call him, because he is a very old cat. They live on our back porch. They never leave. They were like, oh, this is it. We're done. And they stay on our back porch pretty much permanently. They're like bookends. Excuse me. Nostalgic says the reason I believe Bandai Machinder's spring-loaded weapons are weaker because I watched Japanese review videos and saw the rocket punch in action. It wasn't impressed. As I catch up here, Judge says he once rescued a baby starling chick I found on my porch. Wow. Toy Chic says, have a good evening. Oh, he's got to get going. Okay, Toy Chic. And G.I. Joe Dave, he says he likes the 86 G.I. Joe sci-fi on the card. I just did a review on my channel. Oh, yeah, sci-fi. Sci-fi is a cool one. Although a lot of people hate this one because they think that I've heard it described as being the beginning of the end for G.I. Joe appearing in any way to have like a military look and getting more fanciful. So people didn't, there's a lot of people who don't like this one for a variety of reasons, but you know, whatever. And granted, I always did prefer the ones that had more of a military style to them, you know, like they had a military uniform myself. But yeah, take a look at that, people, if you want to see G.I. Joe Dave's review of the sci-fi. As I catch up here, Gilgamesh said Todd says he's talking with DC and Mattel about making DC in some way. Oh, okay, so they are cutting them loose. Mattel did that to Super 7 too. They threw Super 7 off of Masters of the Universe. And Hall, yeah, Comics is here. Glad you could make it. Saturday Morning says, do I have the fridge? I do have the fridge. I do have it. Where is he? He's here somewhere. Oh, well. I guess I lost track of him. But I do have a fridge figure. I just don't see him. He should be on this display, though. Oh, here he is. I found him. See? There he is. This is my childhood one that I mailed away for. But I don't know what happened to his mace. He had a football on a chain. And it's missing for some reason. And the fridge was never in that shape. He never looked that good. Ben the Refrigerator Perry, who won a bet by eating 72 hamburgers. But yeah, my hammer is missing, unfortunately. And Gilgamesh said sci-fi is one of the original 8 original Joes I still have. I always liked him. Munin went to GameStop, saw a lot of McFarlane Multiverse figures, even Platinum Chases just sitting. Well, GameStop is dying. It's been dying for years. Saturday Morning said Sci-Fi did a team up with Sergeant Slaughter episode of G.I. Joe. And G.I. Joe Dave said, me too, military Joes are still the best. Yeah, the more military they look, like even low light there, the more military they look to me, the more I dig it, you know. Hall, yeah, says I had Refrigerator Perry and the Sergeant Slaughter. You had to mail away for those. Prized possessions, wish I still had them. Yeah, you had to mail away for the Hooded Cobra Commander, for Duke, for Sergeant Slaughter, and for the fridge. Originally, as I catch on here, Judge says Mattel and Hasbro becoming monopolies, snagging all the popular lines. Yeah, and then of course, you know, they buy other toy companies out and they absorb it that way. Like when they, you know, Hasbro owns Kenner. They bought Kenner in the 90s, and that's how they ended up with the Star Wars license and all that, you know. Saturday Morning said Fridge never was in the cartoon but showed up in the commercial as himself. And yeah, there was, and then of course in the cartoon they had, who was it? Big Lob never got a figure, not until the Anniversary line that came out years later. They did Big Lob then, but they never did Big Lob originally. Although they did do Chuckles, Jinx, and Tunnel Rat, because he was one of the 4 new recruits, all 4 of which were really annoying characters on the show. They were super stupid annoying, quite frankly. Even though the Tunnel Rat figure I really liked. And Chuckles was okay. Chuckles, I guess, was kind of a stab at the whole Miami Vice look. But yeah, those characters were irritating in the show. Listening to them talk and watching them. And Dave loves that I still have the childhood fridge. Yep, he's still here. Blue Splash said Big Lots next to me closing, was able to get some stuff out there for super cheap. They were supposed they're filed for bankruptcy and they were supposed to close all of them, but they got saved at the last minute. But they're still closing several of their store. Let me see. Munin says Hasbro figures are also peg warmers here. Even Wolverine isn't selling. Saturday Morning Fan said, wonder if Big Lob was going to be the fridge. Big Lob, not that muscular, because Big Lob was thin in the show, and the fridge is just way too big. He would have had to have been a smaller figure. Blue Splash wants to know if I have Snow Job. Yeah, I got Snow Job. Let me see. I don't have him carded, but I do have Snow Job. See? With the skis still, and that is my childhood Snow Job. I still have him. This is the one I played with, and no, he doesn't ski. I've tried. It doesn't work. It won't work. Bastard won't ski. And all of my loose Joes are sitting in my G.I. Joe headquarters command center that I got set up over there. And then all of the villains are in that Terradrome that you see behind Dragon there. I've got a complete Terradrome there. And all of the Cobras go in the Terradrome. And then all the G.I. Joes go in the G.I. Joe headquarters in the other side of the room. Saturday Morning said he liked Jinx. She was great in the comics. Yeah, well, the way the comics were done, and the way that the comics were done in a way that was more for an older audience than the Sunbow cartoon. So Sunbow cartoon and the comics are in 2 different universes. Hall, said childhood Snow Job with accessories. You're a wizard. None of my childhood Joes survived. Well, that's because I didn't play with them. I got them, bought them with my own money, because I worked when I was a kid. I got them with my own money, and I'd open them up and I just kind of displayed them. So their condition on most of them is like phenomenal. I never broke them up or wore them out or lost pieces, except for Fridge's hammer. I don't know what the hell happened to it. But yeah, any of those that I have, any of my childhood pieces that I can grab here just randomly. Here, we grab this. Here's Firefly. That's my childhood Firefly. And look how tight he is. Because I just never did anything with him. But yeah, all of my Joes look like that. Because I still managed to hold on to a bunch of the ones I bought myself. And oddly enough, unlike what I talked about with the Adventure Team figure, which is still sitting here, when I was buying those myself, when I was older, apparently she didn't care about that. Johnny says they weren't counting on a young David actually testing out the skis. Now, were they? I did try the skis. It just they don't work. And Lynx likes the Tony the Tiger. Oh yeah, I've shown that before. You mean this? This piece back here? This one? It's a cereal container made in 1968 as a promo for Kellogg's. So it's blow mold plastic, and you're supposed to store the cereal in here. And I was really happy when I got this one because these are usually damaged pretty badly. The paint is usually pretty bad, all scratched up and scraped off, or the top's missing, or the seam is split, or something's wrong with it. This one looks unused. So I was thrilled to find one in this condition. So yeah, any old ad icon stuff, I will collect. That's why I have a lot of vintage ad icon vinyls. Because they made a lot of that stuff in the 70s. All those you see back here, like even right here, the Pillsbury Playthings and other stuff that I have. There's the Familiar Places McDonald's, and there's Captain Crunch and the Florida Orange Bird and the Kraft Macaroni and Cheese, Cheezosaurus Rex, that kind of stuff. Yeah, I love the old icons and things like that. Saturday Morning says, I don't know. No Place Like Springfield episode of G.I. Joe is pretty creepy. That was actually some pretty sophisticated writing for the show. That was well written, although their multi-part episodes were better written than their standalone episodes. The individual episodes usually take it or leave it, a lot of them, with a few exceptions, like The Viper was a good one, or the one where Shipwreck was telling the little kids a story was pretty funny. But their 2-parters and 5-parters were the best. And No Place Like Springfield was pretty good. Blue Splash said very good shape. Yeah. I've tried to find the best examples I can. Gilgamesh said several of my Joes had fallen apart. I had to replace the O-rings. It wasn't hard though. Yeah, usually it's not. There are a handful of exceptions where the seam was sealed for some reason, like Xandar. The Xandar figure, his seams are sealed. So even if you take the screw out, you can't open him. There's a handful that are like that there's a problem with. Hall, said, that's incredible. I hope you play with them now. Your setup demands it. No, I don't really play with them. I just kind of got them displayed, but I don't play with them. I'm not like, and I don't really do action figure photography either. I'm happy enough just to have them. And Link says Tony looks in great condition. Love seeing old school iconic characters. Yeah, if there's any of the other ones you want to see, just let me know. Like I said, you can see some of the ad icons behind me. But and again, those are really important, nostalgically speaking, as well. They don't mean anything to anybody now. Young people today don't give a damn about Toucan Sam, for example. But it meant something to us. Lynx says, are there Charlie the Tuna Fish? Do they have toys and products? They made a ton of promo stuff. All of those did. There's vinyl figures. There's transistor radios was a big one. And there is a Charlie the Tuna transistor radio. Telephones was a big thing. And I believe there is a Charlie Tuna telephone, actually. So, Charlie Tuna phone and Pillsbury Doughboy and Little Sprout had phones. That was a thing in the 70s to make figural telephones. To make transistor radios that were shaped like the character was a big thing. And to do vinyl figures, I do have the Product People Charlie Tuna vinyl still sealed. It's part of the collection that's back here. I don't think you can see them. And G.I. Joe Dave loved Count Chocula. Count Chocula. Yeah, right back here. Hold on a second. Let me turn the wall out. And I'll show you. These are the product people. 2 waves, 1975 and 1976. There's your Count Chocula. Funko copied this. And you could purchase it in store in this box or mail order, and it would come in a brown shipper. In this box, though, very rare. And then that's the Charlie the Tuna from the same company. Vinyl figure. See? Product people. Double window box so you can see his back. I like that. And again, I have the entire product people line mint in the box, except for Frankenberry. That's the only one I'm missing. But they're very rare. They're very rare. Most of them. Actually, the easiest ones to find are the Snap, Crackle, and Pop. But most of them are very, very difficult. Saturday Morning said Toucan Sam is back again in ads, but they CGI'd him, of course. Captain Crunch and LaFoot, but Cap's new voice is awful. Sounds nothing like Mr. Magoo. And they made figural banks and a lot of toys and accessories. Captain Crunch and figurines. Also, there was a board game, Captain Crunch, that was mail order. You had to order it directly from Quaker Oats. And I have a couple of the Captain Crunch figural banks. I don't have the Jean Lafoot bank, though. That one's tough. And they also did a bank of his parrot. Munit says at GameStop, they noticed many older con exclusive pops from years back in stock. They were supposedly sold out. And Johnny says GameStop is hanging by a thread. Yes, they are. And G.I. Joe Dave likes that Count Chocula. And links Oscar Mayer. Oscar Mayer. I don't have anything from Oscar Mayer, but they did make stuff, little cars. I think they might have made a radio too. And Saturday Morning said Captain Crunch got a team up with Spider-Man in the 80s comics. And Hall says, I love seeing the collection. Appreciate you sharing it with us. Great stuff. No problem. I don't mind showing a few pieces and talking about it. I'm just gonna. It's mine, and you can't see. You can't play with my toys. Go away. No, I don't mind showing. I have a lot of stuff that often people have never seen, or they forgot about it. And Saturday Morning says, did they do Cookie Crook or Cookie Cop from Cookie Crisp? Yes. I believe there's some figurines as well as a few other pieces. And Johnny wants to know where the crown is. The crown's in the closet. Yeah, I have the crown. I was considering taking it to Joe Fest. I could walk around with the crown on. And I'll pull my wife has one of those wagons. I'll pull the wagon and demand people fill it up. Blue Splash wants to know if I can show Count Von Count. Count Von Count. Oh, you mean you saw that back there? I do have the Count. The Child Guidance Count. This one. Part of the Child Guidance hand puppet collection from the Sesame Street collection that was made in, 1976, I think? And they had a bunch of stuff, you see. They made a bunch of puppets. Some are harder than others. Like, let me see. Franklin is a tough one. And this one is make your own. And all the pieces come off of his face. That's a tough one. And Ernie and Bert are the ones you can find the most, but they're hard to find complete because their arms had foam inserts and they had a clamp. It was a clamp with two rings on it, and one of them snapped around one of the wrists. So while you were working the puppet, you could move his hand. Johnny had the Bert and Ernie. And Lynx said, forgot about the Cookie Crisp characters. Now it's the wolf. That's right. So this is not sealed. This used to belong to Richard. He wrote his name on it. This is not sealed. The count is really unplayed with because usually when you see the count, he's in pretty bad shape. His monocle is missing, and or somebody cut his hair. It really doesn't look much like the count. Honestly, it's kind of scary looking, really. But there he is, Count Von Count by Child Guidance, 1976. They made them also in 1973. They made a handful in 1973. I know for sure they did Bert and Ernie, but they were not in boxes like this. They were on a big card. It was a big card with a tray on the bottom, and they were sitting in the tray and like zip tied to the card. Saturday Morning says he has the Count puppet, but it's in rough shape. It was my older brother's as a kid, and the monocle is missing. Yeah, that's pretty common. That's pretty common. These are usually in rough shape. But there he is, Count Von Count, as well as a few of the others. I wish I had the whole set. They're really hard to find in the box. You can find them loose, but in the box, it's another story. I've got the Big Bird. I've got Oscar. I've got Cookie Monster. But again, they're very expensive to track down in the boxes or in unplayed with condition. I've got the Ernie. He's loose though. The Ernie is actually hiding back there. There's your Ernie. He still has the foam in his arms. He does not have his clamp, but his hair is still intact. No one chopped his hair off. That's a pretty common thing with a lot of these. Actually found that at a yard sale. You don't find good stuff at yard sales hardly that much anymore, but it does happen. It does happen, ladies and gentlemen. So we still look. My wife and I, if we happen to see a yard sale or an estate sale, we usually end up walking away, but rarely you find something. What I really hate is the estate sales now because most of them are managed. No one just has an estate sale anymore. They get to hire a professional company to come in and assess prices, and they always mark it way up because they're planning on having a sale day, and you can't get good prices, and it's just a load of crap. I hate that. Saturday Morning says they still have the childhood Oscar plush. Is it Knickerbocker? Knickerbocker made a lot of those. I'll put this away before I forget. Yeah, Knickerbocker made a lot of plushes of Sesame Street characters, as well as the only 80s 12th scale figures, which I've shown those before. I have the whole set of 1981 Knickerbocker Sesame Street action figures. 5 points of articulation, real action figures, mixed media. I love those. And Saturday Morning said not sure, was early 80s. It's probably Knickerbocker then. And I think after Knickerbocker went out of business, Applause picked up the license. Applause, and because they also got the license for Raggedy Ann and Andy from Knickerbocker. And Raggedy Ann and Andy changed hands once or twice more and then just disappeared completely. I think the last company to do Raggedy Ann and Andy was some anniversary figures that were made in like 2003, and I don't think anything's been made since. It's a completely dead franchise, like Holly Hobby. Holly Hobby dead, as well as several others that time has just kind of forgotten. Faded away like old soldiers. They never die, they just fade away. And so have they. And speaking of fading away, I guess I'll fade away, because it's we're just over the 2 hour mark. Impromptu, out of nowhere live, just for the hell of it. So thank you, everybody. Thank you particularly to Pastor Rick and to Stone Sour, who made donations to the channel this evening to help us out with our shelter cats. It really means a lot. We really appreciate it. No LPH, of course, because she's just not here today. But hopefully, I don't know if we'll be doing a live on Saturday. I don't know yet. We'll see how she feels. She'll probably be pretty tired after coming back from her work excursion. Naturally, again, well, that's not for a couple of weeks yet, though. We will be going to Toylanta. I will be, I think I'll do it as another live. I think I'll do it as another live walkthrough before they start. And then we'll film a few other things afterwards. Maybe I'll try to do a best of if I can, if I spot anything really stupid rare. But hey, thanks everybody for joining us this evening. Hope you had a good time. And I will catch you again sometime soon.